In a modest apartment in Atlanta, Georgia, you were born, completely unaware of the storms brewing inside you. You grew up with your mother, Donda, who was fiercely proud of you, her brilliant, creative son. If only she knew the pain you would carry, the rage, the loneliness, the fractures in your soul, and your eventual decline in mental health, she might have held you tighter, longer, and tried to shield you from what was coming. But for now, you're just a child, shuffling between Chicago and Atlanta, caught in the silent aftershocks of your parents' divorce. You don't understand why home feels unstable, and why your father feels distant, and your mother's love, though deep, can't fill every hollow place. If you could see the future, the years of abandonment issues, the desperate need for validation, the way every betrayal will cut deeper because of these early wounds, you might have begged to stay small forever, to never have to face a world that would both idolize and abandon you. But then again, I might be wrong. You are Kanye West after all. There's nothing small about you. Not your career, your fame, your marital issues, and definitely not your 5'8" self. Your parents' split was a quiet earthquake, reshaping your landscape before you even knew what was happening. You were 3 years old, too young to process it, but definitely old enough to feel its weight. Your father, Ray, is a stranger in pieces, sometimes there, often not. So you spent most of your youth craving a father figure, but none ever showed up. Your mother was your rock, but even her devotion can't stop the questions gnawing at you. You don't have the words for it yet, but the fear is already there, the fear of being left, of never being enough. It's a shadow that will follow you into every relationship, every feud, every outburst. You'll spend your life building empires just to prove you're worth something, chasing love like it's a prize you lost long ago. And it all starts here, in this fractured childhood, where love is both your lifeline and your first great wound. To say your childhood was a mix of cultures would be an understatement, because Chicago wouldn't be your last move. One day, you would find yourself, bags packed and ready to board a plane to China, where your mom would teach in a school. But this didn't last long. Soon, you would be back in America, ready to grow up, become an independent thinking man, and post anti-Semitic comments on Twitter. Years after your return, you tried to get into the music industry. In a cramped Chicago recording studio, you're hunched over a beat machine, fingers flying across the keys as you craft another soul sample. No one believes in you yet. You're just another producer with big dreams, begging for a chance to rap. The industry laughs when you say you'll be the greatest. They tell you to stick to making beats for others. But you don't listen. You can't. The hunger burns too deep. If you knew how many doors would slam in your face, how many executives would dismiss you as just a producer, you might have quit right then. But you didn't. You kept going, even after the accident. Yeah, we can't forget to mention how you barely survived a car crash. But even with that setback, you still managed to make magic. Your jaw was wired shut, your face was swollen from the crash. But you're still in the booth, mumbling rhymes through the pain. Through the wire becomes your defiance, your proof that even death can't stop you. The label still hesitated, no one wanted a rapper who didn't fit the mold. But then came your album, The College Dropout, and suddenly, the world hears about what you've known all along. You're not just good, you're revolutionary, a genius in every way. But fame doesn't soften the blows. Every victory is shadowed by a fight against the industry, against critics, against yourself. The VMAs incident brands you arrogant, the Taylor Swift moment turns you into a villain overnight. The media dissects your every word, your every outburst. You're too loud, too honest, too much. The labels were right after all. You didn't fit the mold, and not in a good way. They called you unstable when your mind raced faster than they could understand. Yet with every fall, you rise again. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy isn't just an album, it's your redemption, a masterpiece forged in exile. Now you're at the top, but the battles will never stop. The industry that once doubted you now fears you, and the price of genius is isolation. You're Kanye West, unmatched, uncompromising, and forever at war with the world that made you. But the odds are not only against you in your career. Your personal life is a complete mess. 2 years before you claimed Beyonce had the greatest music video of all time, you lost your rock and the ground caved around you. Your mom, Donda, died of a heart disease, and you were never the same. It wasn't just your mother who was buried. A part of you went with her. The woman who had been your first teacher, your fiercest defender, the one who believed in you when no one else did, was gone. And without her, the world felt hollow. You poured your grief into music, screaming your pain into songs. But no amount of fame or success could fill the silence she left behind. But your loss and pain didn't end there. The following year, you lost your fiancée Alexis, the woman who stood by you as you climbed from the beach to Billboard, who loved you before the world knew your name. You had a ring, a future, a promise, until it all slipped away in 2008, another loss stacked atop the grief you were already drowning in. If you'd known then how loneliness would knot you in the years after, how the echoes of her absence would mix with the silence where your mother's voice should have been, you might have begged her to stay, or cursed yourself for not holding on tighter. But you were just a man then, raw and unraveling, learning too late that even genius can't armor you against a breaking heart. To lose your mother was to lose your anchor. To lose Alexis was to realize that some wounds never quite heal, no matter how many stadiums chant your name. No wonder you snapped at the VMAs. However, that night branded you as an asshole forever. No one can talk about Kanye West without mentioning that day. And the fact that your mom and partner left you a few years prior didn't win you any sympathy from the world. Soon, the loneliness would end when you found a new girl. On a sunny day in 2014, you stood beside Kim Kardashian, your hands clasped together, your face alight with something rare, genuine happiness. The world watched you as you married her in a lavish Italian ceremony, a fairy tale ending to a whirlwind romance that had begun years earlier, when you were just a starstruck rapper and she was the reality TV queen who had captured your heart. For a while, it was perfect. You showered her with grand gestures, private jets, extravagant jewelry, even an entire stadium filled with flowers just to re-propose. She adored you, not just as Kanye West the artist, but also as Kanye West the man. You had 4 beautiful children together, a sprawling empire, and for the first time in your chaotic life, it seemed like you had found stability. But if you had known then how it would all unravel, how your mind would betray you, how the love would curdle into bitterness, how the world would watch as your marriage collapsed into slow motion, you might have hesitated before slipping that ring onto her finger. At first, your struggles were quiet, hidden behind closed doors. But as your mental health spiraled, so did your relationship. The mania, the paranoia, the uncontrollable outbursts, they chipped away at the foundation you had built. Kim stood by you through hospitalizations and public meltdowns, but there was only so much she could take. The 2020 presidential campaign was the breaking point. You stood on that stage in South Carolina, tears streaming down your face, voice cracking as you rambled about abortion and Harriet Tubman, and the world saw what Kim had been dealing with for years. She tried to protect you, to get you help. But the man she married was slipping further away. By 2021, the distance between you was unbearable. She filed for divorce, and just like that, the fairy tale was over. What followed was uglier than anything you could have imagined. The divorce wasn't just a legal split. It was a public unraveling. You fought her for custody, raged on social media, and dragged her new relationship with Pete Davidson into your chaos. You posted private texts, mocked their romance, and even released a music video depicting his fake burial. The world watched in shock as the once doting husband became a scorned man, lashing out at the woman he once claimed to love. The court stepped in, granting Kim primary custody, leaving you with limited visitation. You claimed she was keeping the kids from you, that she was brainwashing them, but the truth was, your instability made you unreliable. The children you adored, North, Saint, Chicago, and Psalm, were caught in the middle, their father's love overshadowed by his turmoil. In the end, the marriage that had once been your greatest source of pride became another casualty of your unmanaged demons. Kim moved on, quietly rebuilding her life, while you remained trapped in the same cycle of public outbursts and burned bridges. However, your mental health decline would cost you more than just your marriage. It started in 2016, after years of sleepless nights and mounting pressure. You were hospitalized, strapped to a bed, your thoughts spiraling into chaos. The world called it a psychiatric emergency, but to you, it was just the moment the dam broke. You ranted about industry conspiracies, fired off tweets about Jay-Z and Beyoncé, and canceled your tour mid-stride. The doctors sedated you, but the humiliation lingered. If you had known that this was only the beginning, that your mind would betray you again and again in front of millions, you might have begged them to keep you locked away, because 2020 came around, the year you ran for president, and lost your grip entirely. You said a lot of crazy things and revealed you had stopped taking your medication. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. The internet mocked you mercilessly. But the final blow came in 2022, when the anti-Semitic rants began. You went on podcasts and spewed hate, doubled down on conspiracy theories, and woke up each morning to a new wave of outrage. Adidas, the company that stood by you through scandals and meltdowns, finally reached its limit. They cut ties, erased Yeezy from their future, and watched as your net worth crumbled overnight. You lost your billionaire status, the contracts burned, the money vanished, and the world moved on without you. If you had known all those years ago in that studio that your mind would lead you here to isolation, infamy, and ruin, you might have wondered if the music was ever worth the cost. As if you couldn't be more isolated, you started beefing with other artists. But does Drake really count since you've hated him for longer than you've liked him? He definitely didn't win your favor by using someone who everyone thought was your ex-wife in one of his music videos. Then there was Jay-Z, your mentor, your brother, the man who helped you launch your career, until the friendship crumbled. You accused him of betrayal, of not visiting you in the hospital, of turning his back when you needed him most. The "Watch the Throne" magic faded, replaced by bitter lyrics and public callouts. Even Kid Cudi, once your protege, turned against you, mocking your mental health struggles before an uneasy reconciliation. But artists and diss tracks would be the least of your problems, because labels and producers would come after you with their lawyers. Over the course of your career, you will get sued multiple times. Your genius for sampling was undeniable, breathing life into dusty records, turning obscure melodies into anthems. But with every flip of a vocal cord chop, every repurposed drum break, you were dancing on the edge of copyright law. Your lawsuits came like clockwork, from Syl Johnson over They Say, from Buffalo Springfield Estate over Stronger, from the Austrian duo Daft Punk over On Sight. Each case was a reminder that your art came with a price, that every sample carried the risk of litigation. Some battles you won, others you settled quietly. But none of them stopped you. You kept digging in the crates, kept bending the rules, because that's what made your music yours. The biggest fight came with Blood on the Leaves, when the estate of Nina Simone's producer sued you for twisting her sorrowful strange fruit into a trap dirge. Critics called it sacrilege, lawyers called it infringement. But you didn't care. You never did. Even when the judge ruled against you, even when the fines piled up, you treated the lawsuits like attacks on greatness. Soon you would form an alliance with Elon Musk. The friendship seemed electric at first. Bound by a shared love of disruption, a defiance of cancel culture, and a belief that your voices were too bold for the shrinking minds of modern society, Elon laughed at your rants. You admired his ability to bend reality to his will. For a moment, it felt like a partnership of outliers against the world. But neither of you realized how quickly that bond would unravel, how the very platform that brought you together would become the stage for your mutual undoing. At first, Twitter was your playground. Elon, nearly crowned as its owner, welcomed your return to the app after your ban, eager to prove his commitment to free speech. You posted unfiltered thoughts, wild proclamations, and half-formed philosophies, while he liked, replied, and even egged you on. The world watched in uneasy fascination as two of its most controversial figures amplified each other's chaos. But then, the tone shifted. Your tweets grew darker, praising Hitler, conspiracy theories, and outright anti-Semitism. Elon, who once indulged your provocations, hesitated. He deleted his supportive replies. He scolded you publicly, then suspended your account. The same man who had reinstated you has now cut you off, not out of principle, but because he couldn't even afford the backlash. The friendship that once thrived on defiance now collapsed under the weight of its own recklessness. And just like that, the bond was broken, not with a fight, but with a quiet retreat, leaving you isolated once more. Another bridge burned in the wake of your own words. It's 2025, and frankly, your life has been worse. There's talk about your second wife, Bianca, divorcing you just like Kim did. Even she couldn't handle your craziness. Everyone in your life seems to have abandoned you, except the voices in your head. You've had many ups and downs, but the world isn't too worried about you. You always bounce back up. Others could wait to see what happened if you didn't win, but they'll never know. Or maybe this will be your end, an end to the eternal loneliness that your life always has been.